This video was filmed during the SARS-CoV-2 pandemic, the virus that causes COVID-19. The entire team wore surgical masks to adhere to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recommendations for universal source control.
Welcome to our live report on personal protective equipment, or PPE as we call it, use in healthcare facilities. I'm Jan Sparkles, a registered nurse and a healthcare reporter with WPPE News 13 investigative reporting team on our way to a local healthcare facility. We're investigating how well healthcare personnel are using PPE in their daily activities because, as we all know, lives are on the line. Gloves, gowns, face mask. Gloves, gowns, face mask. Don't let me forget that. Okay. Wait, are we literally rolling? Oh, okay. Up the tip of the tongue, tip of the tip of the tongue.
Do you hear?
This is where the rubber meets the road. We're literally in the trenches here where PPE makes it or breaks it.
Yeah, I think they're dating. Hey, I know you, Jan Sparkles.
Why, thank you. But we're here today to talk about you and how you use personal protective equipment.
Oh, goody. Like a quiz.
Can you tell us which PPE equipment you use and when each piece is appropriate?
Okay, well, we wear a mask if we think we're going to be near a patient that might spread infection through coughing or sneezing. Wear gloves and a gown if we think our clothes are going to come in contact with blood or body fluids. And then maybe eye protection if we think we're going to get sprayed or splashed in the nose, mouth, or eyes.
That's great. You're doing all the right things. Gloves are the most common form of PPE used. Use it anytime you may come into contact with blood, body fluids, non-intact skin, or contaminated equipment, and put on gloves before you start.
Definitely.
Masks are designed to protect the mucous membranes of the nose and mouth, where at any time materials may splash or spray, as in the case of a patient coughing.
We call that a droplet precaution because of the droplets of fluid that spray when you cough.
And make sure it fully covers your nose and mouth. Sometimes you may need an N95 mask or other device, depending on the nature of the risk.
Isn't it true with the N95 mask that you have to have a medical evaluation to make sure that it's safe for you to wear?
You do! The N95 mask was designed to protect against airborne diseases such as TB, and OSHA requires them to be fit tested. If the respirator cannot give you a seal with your face, it cannot be expected to provide the level of protection you'll need. Anything else?
If you're really concerned about getting splashed in the face, then you could wear goggles with a mask or a face shield.
Yes, to protect your eyes and face. Goggles should fit snugly over and around your eyes.
Oh, and no personal eyewear.
Yes, personal eyewear is not a substitute for proper eyewear. Oh, and as you correctly mentioned earlier, gowns should be worn to protect the skin and clothing from contamination. Remember, if it's wet and it doesn't belong to you, use the appropriate PPE and perform hand hygiene before and after patient contact. You did great.
Thanks.
No, seriously, keep up the good work.
Okay.
Let's roll. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
Healthcare-associated infections are a major yet often preventable threat to patient safety. Personal protective equipment, or PPE, refers to the wearable equipment that is intended to protect healthcare personnel from exposure to or contact with infectious agents. Use personal protective equipment anytime contact with blood or body fluid is anticipated. Select the appropriate PPE for the task. For example, wear a fluid-resistant gown if you anticipate splashing or splattering during a procedure. Masks are needed to prevent the spray of blood or body fluids into the mouth or nose and when a patient has an infectious disease transmitted by droplets, such as influenza or pertussis.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nurse Naomi and team.
Hi, another investigative report.
You got it. But today we're talking about PPE.
All right, let's do it.
What are some of the best practices your staff uses to prevent contaminating other items when using PPE?
Well, we try not to touch anything we don't have to. For example, we don't put our hands in our pockets or anything. And we change it if it's wet, soiled, or damaged.
Those are very good. How about keeping your hands away from your face?
Oh yeah, definitely no touching, scratching, rubbing the eyes, etc.
What does it mean to work from clean to dirty?
Well, that means if you need to touch several different things, you want to start with whatever's cleanest so you don't contaminate it. So if you need to touch the patient's skin, you want to do that first when all the PPE is new and uncontaminated. And then if you need to go and adjust the bed, you do that after touching the patient's skin. And if you need to pick up any contaminated equipment, you do that last.
That's exactly correct. And if you then have to go back and make contact with the patient, remove the PPE, perform hand hygiene, and don new PPE.
Yeah, good point.
So limit the amount of surfaces touched, change worn and contaminated PPE, work from clean to dirty, and keep your hands away from your face.
And don't forget to remove and discard the PPE before you leave the area.
Yes, and that is a perfect segue into our next topic, but we'll get out of your way and find someone else for that. Okay, thank you guys. Go team.
Bye.
There are many ways individuals can work to improve the use of PPE. In addition, the organization can also take these important steps. 1. Provide all needed PPE appropriate for all tasks. 2. Provide training upon hiring and at least annually. 3. Document all training and competencies. 4. Periodically monitor to assure that all staff wear PPE properly. 5. Provide feedback to personnel regarding their PPE practices.
Dr. Snyder, Dr. Arthur Snyder, Dr. Herder, Dr. Frederick Herder, Dr. Monkowitz, Dr. Alfred Monkowitz, Dr. Clark, Dr. George Clark, Dr. Sanders, Dr.
Hi, doctor. Can we take a minute to talk to you about PPE, which I see you're already geared up for, which is perfect.
I was just finishing up, ready to head out.
Do you mind demonstrating your PPE removal for us?
Sure, I guess.
Uh-oh. Just,
Okay.
Well, actually, there is a very specific order and technique for PPE removal to avoid contaminating yourself.
Maybe I did rush through that.
Can we take a minute to review the proper procedure?
Okay.
In fact, our very own cameraman, John Bob, has had thorough experience in CDC PPE removal. John Bob?
Nice to see you again, John Bob.
Just John.
He'll start with his gloves. He'll peel the first glove off. He holds the first glove in his second gloved hand, sliding his fingers underneath the wrist of the glove, peeling the second glove off over the first, and then discards.
And I noticed how careful he was just to touch the inside of the glove.
Precisely. Next, he'll remove his face shield, lifting the hairband or the earpieces. And then he'll remove his gown, unfastening the ties, pulling it away from his neck and shoulders. He'll turn it inside out and roll it or fold it into a bundle and then discards.
And then too, I noticed how he was careful enough just to touch the inside of the gown.
Right. And then normally, you would then remove your mask by taking down the bottom elastics or ties and then the top, and then carefully removing it without touching the surface of the mask, and then you would discard it. And finally, doctor?
And wash your hands or use an alcohol-based rub immediately after removing all your PPE.
See, you got it. It's easy. We even came up with an acronym for it. HEGM.
Hegum.
Hands, eyes, gowns, mask.
Hang on. Hands, eyes, gowns.
Mask. Hands, eyes, gowns, mask. Hands, eyes, gowns, mask. Hands, eyes, gowns, mask. Oh, God. Wow. And remember to wash. That was good. Thank you. Oh, gosh. I think I might love you. Hands, eyes, gowns, mask.
Hands, eyes, gowns, mask.
Remember, always put PPE on before you have any contact with a patient or resident. Change PPE anytime it is contaminated or you need to go from a dirty area back to a clean area. Using the CDC's recommended procedure for putting on or donning PPE is important. What may be more important is using the correct procedure for removing or doffing your PPE. Despite wearing PPE for their safety, healthcare personnel routinely self-contaminate while doffing PPE with rates as high as 46 to 90% across PPE types. After cleaning your tasks, but before leaving the work area, remember to carefully remove and discard all PPE in an appropriate receptacle. Remember the order: hands, eyes, gown, mask. And immediately perform hand hygiene after removal of PPE.
Hi, Jan Sparkles from WPPE News 13. Do you have a minute?
I can make a little time.
We're investigating PPE, and I'd like to ask you the things that you do to stay safe and maybe some mistakes people make.
I'm game. Shoot.
What are some critical practices for PPE?
I know you're always supposed to take your PPE off when leaving the work area, like a patient's room. Never wash gloves. Just discard everything after use.
That's good. That is a big one. What about when you should use PPE?
When you might touch blood or body fluids?
Right. Or other invasive procedures such as central line incisions, aseptic procedures, or other procedures like cleaning wounds, cleaning and disinfecting contaminated equipment. How about gowns? Are there any best practices when it comes to gowns?
I know you want to cover all your clothing, and your gloves should go over your cuffs.
Right. Never roll up your sleeve.
Right.
Are there any mistakes people make when it comes to gowns?
One time I passed a trash can out in the parking lot, and there was part of a gown hanging out the side. That wasn't right. No. And I know you should never leave your gown or any PPE on outside of your work area.
Like hallways, supply rooms, nurses' stations, movie theaters. How about gloves? Are there any mistakes people make with them?
Well, let's see. I know a lot of my coworkers say they don't have to wash their hands because they're wearing gloves.
Another good one is not to wear non-approved hand lotion as it compromises glove performance. What about masks? Any common mistakes people make with masks?
People, please make sure not to touch the front of your mask after you put it on.
Right. Do not wear it if it's wet or soiled.
Yes, get a new one.
Yeah. And you might see this now and again. Don't wear the mask around your ears, letting it dangle, or around your neck. It's got to be on all the way, or not at all.
No dangling.
No dangling. Well, I'd like to thank you for your time. We've learned a lot about PPE today.
Thank you. Keep up the good work.
No, you keep up the good work.
Okay, I'll keep up the good work.
Okay. Well, bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. See you later.
That's it for our live report on PPE use in healthcare settings. Please be careful and stay protected. Hands, eyes, gowns, masks. Hands, eyes, gowns, masks. Hands, eyes, gowns, masks. Hands, eyes, gowns, mask. Hands, eyes, gowns, mask. Hands, eyes, gowns, mask. And remember to wash.